Good day everyone, I am Rosemary Lambino together with my co-reporters, Miss Iliano, Miss Matea, Mr. Marquez, and Mr. Haner. So we will be discussing all about cross-border capital flows. So let's start with ano nga ba ang capital flows? So capital flows refers to the movement of money for the purpose of investment, trade, or business. So when we say capital flows, from the word itself, flows, it goes from one place to another. There's a movement of money. Basically, ito yung pagpasa ng pera from an individual to industry or from business to business for the purpose of trade, business, or investment. Like, for example, nag-invest ako sa isang food industry. So, sa ginawa kong pag-invest, a money moved. It passes from me to a food industry. So, capital flows yon. And let's dive in naman to cross-border capital flows. Cross-border. So, when we say cross-border naman means something that involves or it crosses international borders, such as movement of goods, services, people, or data. But we're tackling about capital flows, so it is a movement of money that crosses international borders. So it says here that cross-border capital flows refer to the movement of money across borders for investing, trade, or business, production, whether by a corporation, a government, or an individual, encompassing both inflows and outflows of funds. It is how funds move between countries to pursue investment opportunities, finance trade, or support both public and private sector development. So, nowadays, alam naman na natin na sobrang interconnected na ng global economy. It means na yung pera, hindi lang basta-basta nag-i-stay sa loob ng isang bansa. Malaya siyang gumagalaw from one country to another. Basically, cross-border capital flows is how the money move between countries to pursue investment, trade, or business. Like, for example, si Pedro from Philippines. Nag-invest siya sa isang company sa US. So, from Philippines to US, the money passes from the Philippines to US. And that's how cross-border capital flows works. And sa cross-border capital flows, meron siyang two directions, which is inflow and outflow. So, sa inflow, it refers to capital that enters a country from abroad. So, nangyayari to when foreign investors, companies, or governments put their money into our country or other countries' assets, industries, or financial markets. And sa inflows naman, inflows means paloob or we receive the transactions or ito yung pagpasok ng pera sa ating bansa.
Good day everyone. So today I will going to discuss the topic foreign direct investment. So what is foreign direct investment or FDI? So this happens kapag yung isang company or individual mula sa isang bansa ay nag-invest sa isang business sa isang country. So hindi lang ito about buying stocks or shares. Ibig sabihin may control, ownership, or long-term interest ang investor sa foreign business. So, for example, kapag yung isang company from Japan ay nag-build ng factory dito sa Philippines, so ang tawag doon ay foreign direct investment. So, FDI is very important sa global economy. So, dahil nakakatulong ito mag-create ng jobs, magdala ng mga new technology at mag-improve ng trade relationships. So, kapag yung foreign investors nagtatayo ng factories or offices, hindi lang pera ang dala nila, kundi skills, modern equipment, at better management practices. So, dahil dito, mas natututo ang mga local workers at nagkakaroon ng new experience both the host country and the home country. Habang kumikita at lumalawak naman ang business ng home country. So, analyzing FDI trends. So, in recent years, nagbago ang FDI trends dahil sa technology, sa globalization, and government policies. So, maraming investors ang mas pinipiling mag-invest sa developing countries dahil sa developing countries dahil mabilis ang economic growth, mababa ang labor cost at malalaki ang mga markets. So halimbawa, yung mga companies sa US, Japan, and China ay nag-i-invest sa Asian countries like the Philippines, Vietnam, and Indonesia. So para magtayo ng factories or branches. Pero may challenges din tulad ng economic problems, political instability, high taxes at poor infrastructure na nagpapa-hesitate sa investors. So bumaba rin ang global FDI. Nung COVID-19 dahil sa uncertainty. So sa pag-aaral ng FDI trends, mas maiintindihan ng government kung ano ang nakaka-attract at nakaka-stop sa investors, kaya mas maayos nilang napapaganda ang business environment.
So let's now proceed the implication of foreign direct investment or FDI for host and home countries' economies. So FDI happens when a company from one country invests in another country, like building factories or starting business abroad. So let's start with the host countries or countries that receive the investment. FDI helps them by creating new jobs, bringing advanced technology, and improving management skills. It can also increase exports and make the economy stronger. The home countries or countries where the investors came from, they benefit by gaining access to new markets, lowering production costs, and earning higher profits. But there are also some disadvantage. Local companies is in the most Local companies in the host country may facing strong competition from foreign businesses, and sometimes the profit are sent back to the investor home country instead of staying host countries. That's why it's important for government to manage FDI properly so both sides benefit and the growth remains sustainable.
Hello, I'm Gary Lanzaner, and I'm discuss the understanding portfolio investment flows. So, portfolio investment flows refers to the movement of money across countries as investors buy or sell foreign financial assets. So, these flows are influenced by several factors such as first one is interest rates. So, if the interest rates of one country is high or mataas, they encourage nila yung mga foreign investors na mag-invest sa kanilang country. Next one is economic growth. The country had a strong growth or economy and also their inflation is low, stable yung politics nila or government, foreign investors, syempre tataas yung trust nila sa pag-invest dun sa country na yon. So, next one is exchange rate. So, if the local currency or domestic currency of one country is stronger, so their asset is more expensive. Last one is market stability. Means financial market like stocks, bonds, or currencies operate smoothly may lead to extreme price swings or sudden disruption. So next one is asset allocation strategies. So asset allocation means dividing an investor's money among different types of assets to balance risk and return. So common asset include stocks, bonds, and cash. In portfolio investment, asset allocation is important because it helps investor protect their investment from market changes. So, asset allocation means, naririnig nyo naman na yung word siguro na diversification, di ba? So, ang ginagawa kasi ng mga investor is, hindi lang nila nilalagay sa iisang institution or iisang investment yung kanilang mga investment. For example, dito is, ang ginagawa kasi nila is parang hinahati-hati nila yung investment nila para ma-reduce yung risk. For example, so di-diversify means sinahati-hati nila. Yung 50% for example is ini-invest nila sa mga food industries like Jollibee Corporation, basta yun, Jollibee, San Miguel, ganun. So, another is yung 25. For example, 25, so 75% na yun. Yung another 25% is ini-invest na naman nila sa other institution, ganun. And yung other 25 again is invest na naman nila sa ibang institution ulit yun. So, ganun yun para ma-reduce or ma-mitigate nila yung risk. So, for example, an investors might place 40% in global stocks. Yun, 40%. 30% in bonds and another 30% in emerging markets. So, this diversification reduces risk since losses in one market can be offset by gain in another. So, a well-planned asset allocation strategy helps investors achieve long-term financial goals while managing uncertainty.
Good day everyone. Today, I'll be talking about investor preferences in global markets. Why investors choose certain countries and how their choices affect the global economy. First, investors around the world have different goals and levels of risk tolerance. And some investors prefer developed markets like the United States, Japan, or Germany because these countries are more stable. So, bakit nga ba nasabing stable ang mga country na ito? Kasi they have strong economies, reliable governments, and well-regulated financial system. Investors who choose this market usually value safety and steady returns rather than taking big risks. On the other hand, some investors are willing to take on more risk in exchange for higher profits. They invest in developing or emerging markets like the Philippines, India, or Brazil. These countries are growing faster and can offer bigger rewards. But they also face challenges such as political changes, unstable currencies, and weaker regulation. So the choices depends on the investors values more, security or higher profit potential. Before investing, investors study several important factors. Let me mention four of the most common ones. So first is government policies. Are the laws and regulation friendly to business and foreign investors? So, as an investor, dapat tinitignan din natin kung maganda ba yung mga policies sa government. So, for example, dito sa mga tax, di ba? As an investor, pag matas yung tax ng pag-iinvestohan mo is, kumbaga, mababawasan, may possibility na mababawasan yung maging profit or return mo sa invest mo kasi mataas yung mga binabayaran na tax. Next is inflation rate. Is the cost of goods and services stable or does it increase too quickly? So, as an investor, stable inflation rates are crucial. So, bakit sinabing crucial? For example, dito sa Pilipinas, diba, mabilis tumaas ang inflation. So, ikaw na investor is magda-doubt ka na mag-invest kasi hindi nga stable. Kumbaga may panganib or risk. So, pwede kang malugi sa invest mo. So, as an investor, dapat doon ka sa stable para magandang profit or income sa investment. Next is currency strength. So, as an investor is dapat stable din yung currency sa pag-iinvestan mo para ma-maintain yung pera or puhunan mo or yung investment mo mismo. Okay. So, next is interest rates. So, kapag mataas yung interest rates is mas maganda kasi mataas yung chance na mas mataas yung profit na ma-earn mo sa investment mo. Yun. So, kapag mababa naman yung interest rate is saktuhan lang, hindi naman lugi or hindi din sobrang taas. Parang ganun. When investors move their money into a country, it's called a capital inflow. This brings more funds for local businesses and help economic growth. However, when investors lose confidence and take their money out, that's a capital outflow, which can weaken the country's currency and cause economic problems. This shows that investors' preferences don't just affect individual profits. They also shape how money moves across borders and how connected global markets really are. A major type of international investment is called portfolio investment. This means buying financial assets like stocks and bonds in other countries without directly controlling businesses. Portfolio investment is very important because it provides developing countries with extra capital for growth. It allows investors to diversify or spread out risk across different countries, but it also needs to be managed carefully. Sudden withdrawals of foreign money can cause financial instability, especially in smaller economies. So, in conclusion, understanding investors' preferences help both investors and governments. Investors can make smarter decisions by balancing risk and return, and governments, on the other hand, can create policies that attract stable, long-term investment instead of short-term speculation. Overall, investors' preferences influence how global capital flows, how economies grow, and how stable the world's financial system becomes.
Next, we have the capital controls. Capital controls are government policies that regulate the flow of money in and out of a country. These controls are put in place to manage and sometimes restrict the movement of capital across borders. So basically, these are government's policies na kumokontrol sa pagpasok at paglabas ng pera sa isang bansa. It means that the government set rules or limits para sa mga foreign investments or money transfers across borders. Now, bakit nga ba ito ginagawa ng government? Of course, the main goal of capital controls is to protect our country's economy. Like for example, kung biglang maraming foreign investors or kung biglang maraming foreign investors ang mag-withdraw ng pera nila ng sabay-sabay, pwedeng bumagsak ang value ng currency natin or mag-cause ng financial instability. Kaya with capital controls, the government can manage or slow down the movement to avoid sudden economic shocks.
So now let's talk about the capital control measures. So capital control measures are action or rules made by the government to manage or limit the flow of money going in and out in one country. So this measure helps protect the country's economy, especially during the time of crisis or when there are problems with the exchange rate or inflation. So different countries use different types of capital controls depending on their needs and goals. So here are some common types of capital control measures. So number one is the transaction taxes. So government may impose taxes on buying or selling foreign currencies or financial assets. So sa madaling salita, kapag nag-exchange ng money from one currency to another or bumili ng shares and bonds sa ibang bansa, may maliit na tax na babayaran. So this help the government na kontrolin yung money flow at bawasan ang sobra-sobrang foreign exchange activity. So, the second one is limits on capital transfers. So, restrictions on the amount of money individuals or companies can transfer abroad. So, this rule controls kung gaano karaming money ang pwedeng isend ng people or companies sa ibang bansa. So, halimbawa, pwedeng may limit ang government kung ilang pera lang ang pwedeng ipadala abroad bawat taon. So, ginagawa ito para hindi lumabas ng sobra ang pera sa country at hindi humina ang local economy or currency. So, the third one is foreign exchange control. So, limit on how much foreign currency can be bought or sold. So, these are rules na naglilimit kung gaano karaming foreign currencies ang pwedeng bilhin o ibenta ng tao. So, halimbawa, pwedeng payagan lang ng government ang travelers or importers na bumili ng specific na halaga ng US dollars. So, ginagawa ito para siguraduhin na hindi mauubos ang foreign currencies reserves ng country. So, importante sa international trade at economic stability. So, the fourth one or the last one is the approval requirement. So, requiring government approval to retain capital transactions. So, sometimes, bago mag-send ng money abroad or mag-invest sa ibang country, kailangan mo nang kumuha ng approval mula sa government. So, this process helps the government na i-monitor ang large or risky transactions at maiwasan ng illegal money activities tulad ng money laundering. So these four measures help governments maintain currency stability at protektahan laban sa sudden financial shocks. So halimbawa, pwedeng ilimit ng country kung gaano karaming money ang pwedeng lumabas during a crisis para hindi bumagsak ang currency. So kahit helpful ang capital control, kailangan din itong gawin ng maayos para hindi makaapekto sa investment at economic growth.
So I'll be talking about the effectiveness of capital control. Now, how effect the capital controls? Well, their effectiveness depends on how and when the government uses them. When used properly and the right time, capital controls can really help the country in many ways. So first, they can prevent financial crises by controlling the sudden movement of money. For example, if investors suddenly pull out their money, it can cause a financial problem. Capital controls help and prevent that. The second is they help keep the value of the country's currency stable. When money moves too fairly, the exchange rate go up and go down quickly. By setting some limits, the government can make sure the value of money stay balanced. The third is they give the government better control over the economy. This allow leader to plan properly, protect local industries, and make policies that fit the country's needs. Also, the restrictions are too strict, they can discourage foreign investors from doing business in the country. This could reduce investment, jobs, and overall economic growth. So that's why capital control should be used wisely and temporarily. They work best during times of financial problems or economic instability, when the government needs to protect the country's money and economy. So, capital controls can be very effective when used in the right way and the right time. They help maintain stability, protect the economy, and support the government policy.
So next one is financial stability. So means a system where banks, markets, and financial institutions can fluctuation smoothly, even during economic shocks or economic crisis. It ensures people can access their money. Businesses can borrow and prices stay stable. For example, in the Philippines, so the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or the BSP. So they monitor banks or cash reserves and set interest rates to prevent crises like bank failures or hyperinflation. So a stable system avoids panic sellings, currency crashes, or credit shortage, supporting long-term economic growth. So, pag sinabi kasi nating panic selling pala, for example, dito is kapag nagkakaroon ng crisis or economic shocks, so or pandemic. Sa isang country nagkakaroon ng panic selling means yung mga foreign investor is binebenta na nila ng mas maaga yung kanilang mga investments para maiwasan ng kanilang pagkalugi syempre. So for example dito sa financial stability is During a financial crisis, investors might panic and withdraw their money quickly, which can cause banks to fall or the currency to crash. Capital controls slow down this process by limiting how much money people can send abroad, giving the government time to respond and fix problems.